welcome back, guys, to our mid-set review. Yanks is back on the call with us. We are going to be talking about a couple of the cards that have either over or underperformed our expectations from the initial set review. Now that we've had a few weeks to, actually play the cards and see how it plays out, get a feel for the different mechanics and how they actually run, some cards just, need to be adjusted. So we're going to go ahead and start off, guys, same color order. We're going to start with Blessed Defiance. This is a 1-mana instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+0, gains lifelink until end of turn, and when the creature dies, you get a 1/1 flying spirit. Ooh, this card overperformed my expectations by a lot. I mean, it's 1 mana, which makes it a reasonable combat trick. I didn't think the 1/1 spirit would be quite impactful enough. I think the lifelink is a little bit better than I was expecting, just with how quick the format is. So it kind of helps you in that race situation. What do you think, Yanks?
Yeah, I still think this card's not great, but I've definitely gotten got by it, and it is a playable combat trick. The life, like you're saying, really matters in a format where you've got these disposable 2/2s that are basically shocks to the face a lot of time, because you don't want to trade with them, because they're going to die anyway. So if you don't have a blocker that can eat them, they just chip away at your life total. So being able to get some stuff back, get some life back helps a lot.
Yeah, so like you said, a lot of times you're just shocking with your zombie, but now you're getting 4 life back, and you're replacing your zombie or this card with a 1/1 flyer, which actually can be kind of relevant. There's a few X1 flyers. And just overall, I think that the format is faster than we expected, so the 2 power boost is also not nothing, and it makes a lot of the smaller, hastier creatures trade up really nicely, which I like. And then again, it does replace itself with an evasive creature that can kind of keep the pressure on. What did we give this originally?
We gave it a 2 originally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still not in love with it, but I think it's, it's being drafted very highly. I'm getting got by it. It's definitely a 2/5. Worth playing, definitely worth having in the sideboard.
Yeah, the other case I was just thinking of that this card's really nice against is against Startle.
Okay.
Because it just, you don't often, there's not much you play around single white in this format. So a lot of times they think they can get a free creature with Startle. -2/-0, and this just counteracts that straight up.
Yes, that's true. I've seen this played a fair amount more than Startle. I feel like I was seeing a ton of Startle in the beginning of the format, and then it's kind of died out for me. But I think that's just because of the quantity of playable blue cards. It just made kind of Startle get pushed into the back line.
Yeah, I'm still seeing a fair amount of Startle, but also seems like 75% of the decks I'm playing against are blue, so...
I mean, blue is just one of the deepest colors, and everything is strong.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna bump this up half a point, which is kind of a lot out of 5. So let's go ahead and move on, guys, to Candle Trap. This is White's lockdown enchantment that we see in most sets. This is for 1 white enchant creature. It has Defender, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by it, and if you have Coven, you may pay 3 to exile the creature. This card has actually underperformed my expectations. Most of the time, these white lockdown cards are, 3/5s for white's best removal options outside of the uncommon borrowed time. Yep.
Borrowed time.
Yeah, so we would expect Borrowed Time to be better. I would expect this to still be kind of close and good. This is something that, I've cut a few of. I'm still running it in my white decks, but it is not the home run that I would typically expect out of, a pacifism type effect.
Yeah, this card is a lot weaker than you see for a few reasons. And they're the same ones that sometime weaken pacifism, right? You've got 3 playable bounce spells in the format between Return to the Drowned, Fading Hope, and Geistwave. 2 of which are common. You've got a lot of black sacrifice effects, which just make these type of auras that don't actually remove the creature from play, or enchantments that don't remove the creatures from play, much worse. And the fact that this also does let you block and activate abilities, makes it much worse than an arrest, for example.
Yeah, so this one seems a lot more deck specific than any typical pacifism that we'll see. So if you can't reliably trigger Coven, if you're in blue white control, kind of where you've got a couple of flyers that all share similar powers, things like that, this is just a blocker. And if you're putting this on a reasonably sized creature, sometimes you can just never get in. You can't trigger the thing. It feels really bad. Now, if you are in a flyer.deck, you can kind of get around that in that, you know, their creature is likely not to be able to block your flyers anyway, so you're not taking the big crack back. So this card seems very dependent upon your actual deck versus what a pacifism is. It was just premium removal in any white deck, right?
Yeah, it's also weirdly both good and bad against disturb cards, right? It's terrible in that they can just chump with them and then replay them, but it's also good because you can exile them if you have Coven.
Yeah, and that's another thing is, like, I've noticed that sometimes I don't have the ability to exile this. I don't want to attack even though I would eat their thing, because they can then either get it back out of the graveyard or disturb it back. So sometimes it is preventing you from even putting your foot on the gas and attacking.
Yeah, again, this is still a playable card, like not saying
Certainly.
to cut it from your decks, but you're just not taking it as highly as you typically take these cards.
Normally my instinct on like a white lockdown spell would be like a 3.5. Is that probably what we gave it?
We actually gave it, we were a little low on this to start, we gave it a 3.
Okay.
And I actually think it's still probably lower than that.
I definitely think so too.
Yeah.
I've been in a situation where I've cut this a couple of times, but it's usually like I have like 2 and a fair amount of other removals, and I'll put it in the side in my best of 3 decks. I think this is like a 2 or a 2/5. It's underperformed, but still very playable.
Yeah, I think if this was a format that had something like a Gideon's Reproach or something that dealt damage to attacking creatures, you might see this even lower, but there's not a ton of white removal.
There certainly isn't. Yeah, the borrowed time being uncommon. We didn't see any like destroy target tapped or attacking creature that we typically see, so... No,
you just got the destroy target creature with toughness 4 or more.
Yeah. Which is usually unplayable, but it's probably actually better in this format than normal.
Yeah.
I don't think that made our list on this because I think we were still pretty happy with it, but we expected it to be a little bit better, but...
Agreed.
All right, guys, moving on to Odric's Outrider, 4 mana, 2/4, that whenever another creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on any creature. I was stoked about this card.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this card, because I look at it and I read the text and it still seems fine. It's got a body that can block all of those zombie tokens. It's gonna grow your creatures, but it never does anything.
I think the reason it is underwhelming for me is because the format's faster than we expected, so it doesn't get that like over the long time like term value that you would expect in most formats. And another thing is there's just so much stinking removal and so few creatures worth removing that this just eats it every time.
Yeah, I think this is suffering also a bit from just white not being very good, especially the aggressive white, super aggressive white decks where you're trading off a bunch and this will just start growing things.
Agreed. And also there's like so much competition in that 4-drop slot that I feel like you almost just get better value from. Like, the common search party guy, that draws a card. Like, there is a fair amount of competition in the white 4-drop slot that is going to kind of push this thing out. Now, I'm still running this card. What did we give it rating-wise?
Give it a 3/5.
Yeah, I think it's way lower. To me, it's like a 2.53.
I think it's a 2/5. I'm still playing it. I'm still taking it over some things, second copies of things that aren't that great. Like, I'm playing it over like a Ritual Guardian, which is like a 2, but I'm not excited with this anymore like I was at the start of the format.
Certainly, yeah. This has definitely been one of the biggest underwhelming cards for me. Like, I remember very early on in the set, one of my first drafts, I had 2 of these and I was super stoked, and I think I got like 1 +1/+1 counter in the entire draft and just felt super bad. I think it shines in the white-black deck where you've got token synergies on both sides, which is kind of nice. But again, it just eats removal because there is just so much of it, and everybody's playing black.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, I'm gonna let you take this one. Oh, actually, you don't even know the list. I got it.
Next up, I got it. Moving into blue, we've got Bait Hook Angler / Hook Haunt Drifter on the back. 2 mana, 2 Undisturb. And then on the backside, you pay 1 and a blue for the disturb cost, and you get a 1/2 flyer.
Yeah, so this is a card that I think the front we thought would trade reasonably well in the format because it is kind of low to the ground, a lot of X1s and X2s, and then the back was pretty underwhelming, but it's a free card. I thought that this was going to be fine and playable, but there has been some talk that this is one of the better blue commons. What do you think about that, Yanks?
I'm not sure I'm willing to go that far. What I like about this card is that I think that blue-white Disturb deck is better than I thought it would be. And this is just a nice piece for it. It's something that can help buy you time by just throwing it under the bus or trading off with something early. And then just come back late. It helps you double spell because it's so cheap if you're trying to change day into night. It does a lot, even though none of it's that great.
Yeah, so it triggers a lot of your blue-white flying mechanics, which is really nice. And then one of the important things, I think, is that the blue-white flying deck, to me, it takes a little bit of time to kind of get going because nothing is super strong on its own. They have to draw a couple extra cards. They got to put stuff in their graveyard. So this kind of stops those more aggressive decks with something that trades very well on too, which is super important. And then you get the back end of the card where it's actually still a, little bit of an annoying threat. I've had to use removal on this back end side more times than I care to think about, for sure.
Yeah, and it's a useful piece in both of probably the best color pairs in the format in blue-white and blue-black for different reasons, for the Disturb angle on blue-white and for the Sacrifice angle on blue-black.
Certainly. So we gave this a
2.
A 2? I mean, I still don't love it, but again, it's seeing a lot more play. It is overperforming my expectations, but where I thought it was borderline playable, I'm definitely picking this up a lot earlier than I was before. 2.5?
Yep.
Still like a small boost, not anything to write home about, but far more playable than we expected. All right. Everybody's sick of this damn card. Falcon Abomination. It is a 3-mana zombie bird 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, make a 2/2 zombie decayed token, which we thought was like a cute little cherry, nothing too crazy. But as we all know, blue and zombies specifically have just outperformed everybody's expectations, I think.
Yeah, I've been on a bit of a roller coaster with Falcon Abomination because I don't think I liked it as much at the start. And then I really liked it, and now I'm kind of back into the middle, probably just because of how deep blue is. But it is definitely overperformed as a whole. The decayed tokens as a whole have been way better than I thought they would be.
They definitely have been insanely good. I just thought they were going to be good for like sack outlets and stuff, but no, they just build up super fast, just incidentally on other cards that do things. And then I'm just like, surprise, have 5 2/2s that just kill you. There's nothing you can do. And also, I've been beat by, this is a common. So sometimes people are just like, Falcon Abomination, Falcon Abomination, Falcon Abomination, Organ Hoarder, Falcon Abomination, you're dead. I'm just like, well, fudge sickles. And that's just all commons. Like, if you have these, they're so strong in multiples. And, you waste your removal spell on the Falcon Abomination. You still have the token that sacks into some crazy synergy or just adds up to be too many tokens. Yeah, this card is great. What did we give it?
We gave it a 3.
I mean, honestly, it's still a 3. Probably, right? Like, we're not looking at bomb territory,
no,
but like...
I think this was worth talking about primarily just to talk about the zombie tokens in general. And how good they've been.
The other thing, too, is that a 3 in blue, or blue-black specifically, it outweighs a 3 in any other color. Like, that's why this feels so much stronger, but we can't realistically give it a better score.
No, what's nice about this card is that it's good in those decks, it's good in the best decks, and it's good against the best decks. Because the reason I thought zombie tokens were going to be weak was just, you run into X3s and X4s, but with green being so bad in this format, there's just a lot of small creatures on the board.
Yeah, there certainly is. And there is a lot of really good sack outlets. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but like this is a really good enabler for the Awakener, right? Like it's a really nice 1-2 combo that just puts you in a commanding lead in any game.
Yep, it's great with the Awakener, Eaten Alive.
Certainly, and you still have this moderately large evasive threat.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on, guys. We have the 4-mana Sage for a 3/2. It is a human wizard. Whenever it becomes night or day, you draw a card, right? So this makes it, if it is not anything, turn it into day, and then whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, draw a card. This is something I thought was going to be a pretty premier card draw mechanic. I think it's underperformed just a little bit, but I think I was really high on this card before.
Yeah, this is the type of card I typically love, but it has definitely underperformed. I mean, the 2/3 body is nice because it does hold off zombie tokens, but 4 mana, a lot of times it's just too slow for what you can do in this format. Like at common, you've got Organ Hoarder, like which is just so much better than this card.
I think what it is for me is that the cards with good abilities are underperforming because the removal in the set is so good, but they justify having such good removal because the format goes so wide, so the removal is weaker. But the removal still finds a good target like this, and it just eats it. So it is performing much worse than it would in a typical format with average to, medium, like, removal spells. Does that make sense?
It does. I also think this is suffering a bit from, like I said, with the Falcon Abomination green being bad. So you're not seeing as many decks that are trying to flip it back and forth from night to day a lot.
Okay.
And blue is a lot of times trying to leave mana open. So you're not likely playing 2 spells a turn to get it to flip back.
Certainly not. I mean, I've played this card plenty, and I'm still happy with it. But I don't even necessarily try to flip. Go out of my way. I kind of just treat this as like an incidental bonus from time to time, and oftentimes my opponent will trigger it for me. But it's just definitely not as exciting as I would have thought, because it's usually just doesn't last very long. It dies to Moonslash. It dies to anything.
Yeah, there are lots of times I've played against this card and I have a removal spell and I'm just killing something else, honestly, a lot of times.
Yeah. What did we give this card before?
We give it a 3.
Okay. I'm like in the 2-5 range. Like you said, like Organ Hoarder is probably just a much bigger meal ticket in the blue deck.
Yeah, I'm in the same range. It's not bad. It's just a little worse than we thought it was.
Certainly. Flip the Switch, 3 mana instant speed, counter unless target spell's controller pays 4, create a tiny little, not important zombie token.
Yeah, flip the switch. Kind of all the counter spells have been better, but this one in particular has overperformed, I think. Paying 4 matters. This is a hard counter most of the time.
Yeah, 4 is a lot
in this format.
It isn't a dead draw very much. Whereas like when you get the 2, even sometimes the 3, mid to late game, you're not super happy about it. But the nice thing is that like anything that's worth countering, you're always going to still be able to counter. So you can't be quite as aggressive with it in the late game where you're countering like a tempo play, but it still is going to counter anything that's super relevant.
Yeah, and the zombie tokens in general have been better, but instant speed zombie tokens have been really good because they basically have haste. Right? They come in this case, on your opponent's turn. If you're countering something, they've already spent a decent portion of their mana, so they may not be able to deal with it. And a lot of times people are playing their spells post-combat, so they might not be expecting another 2/2 on the board to have to deal with.
Certainly, yeah. And then, like we talked about in the last one, the 2/2s are adding up way more than we thought they would. You play this, and then you play into like the Horde, and you get 2 more, and then you play the uncommon Zombie Lord, and you're just swinging for like, 9 power that they just aren't expecting. That's a lot of power over several bodies, even though they don't stay. Doesn't matter if they're dead.
Yeah, and the fact that we're talking blue-black a lot, but the fact that your black card draw spell is at instant speed for the same cost makes this really easy to leave up in blue-black a lot of times. Because I don't want to get flipped the switch. Okay, I'll just draw 2 cards. Yeah,
there is a lot of instant speed things you can do here with blue and black. Like you said, that one, there's like Siphon Soul and Siphon Insight, whatever it's called. There's
all
even
the bounce spells.
A flash blue creature, 2 flash blue creatures, right? There's the 3/3 flyer, the 2/1 flyer. Yeah, there's just like a ton of things. So
yeah,
it is a nice thing to keep in your back pocket and always have your opponents guessing. What did we rate this?
2/5.
I like it at a 3. Like I'm rarely cutting the first one of these in any blue deck.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, all the counter spells have been a little better than they typically are, but this one probably overperformed the most.
Definitely. I've actually been cutting the one that like puts cards back in your graveyard as opposed to like this, or I don't pick up many of the uncommon ones, the Dissipate.
Dissipate, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that card's still good too, but like I love this card.
Yeah, those cards have the advantage of exiling, which is nice, but just this being cheaper and single blue.
All right, moving on to Larder Zombie. 1 mana for a 1/3 zombie with Defender. Tap 3 creatures. You may look at the top card of your library and put it in your graveyard if you want. This is basically a Surveil type card. I thought this was going to be kind of medium bad because I just didn't think I'd want to be tapping my 3 creatures for this, but you know, this is the biggest color we're going to talk about because we were not expecting those damn tokens to be quite as valuable. Another thing is I think that like Siege Zombie ended up being a way to actually win games. So getting this out and having like those options to pitch cards when you don't need to. This is a cheap early body that stonewalls more aggressive decks. It blocks tokens. It taps and pings them or filters the top of your deck, you know, in the mid to late game. This is overperformed by a lot to me.
Yeah, this is probably the card we were most wrong about. I mean, we gave this a 1. That's completely unplayable. I know I was fully on board with that because I thought this was a completely unplayable card, but I'm actively looking for these, especially in blue-black, for all the reasons you said. You have the tokens to tap a lot of times. It blocks them. 1/3 is a relevant body.
I agree with all of those things. I want as many creatures as I can, especially in blue-black. And a lot of times, you know, you're waiting for the buildup of those tokens. Like I was saying, you know, you just get a bunch incidentally, and it's not great to just throw them into a bus or whatever. So you want to build up a few, and then this gives you something to do with them, which actually builds up some value over time. You pitch 1 or 2 lands, that's essentially like, you know, 2 free draws in that mid-game, which feels good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
This is like a 2/5 for me?
Yeah, that's about where I have it.
Excellent. Nebelgeist Intruder. I'm actually surprised this is on the list. I don't remember why we put it here because I always liked this card. 3 mana for a flash flying 2/1 that gives neg2, neg-0 when it enters the battlefield. What did we give this rating wise?
We gave this a 3. I think it's just on here. Partly what we already talked about with Flip the Switch is just a demonstration of all of the instant speed stuff you can do in this format has made this card even better. Like, you just don't know what to play around.
I think this is very similar to like the Falcon Abomination, where like we gave it the correct rating. It's just everything in blue is overperforming. You know, there is an argument that blue is the best color, black is the best color, blue-black definitely being the best like color pairing. So yeah, the rating is probably right. It's just massively overperformed.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about blue in this format. Blue-black is the best black deck. Blue-white, I think, is the best white deck. Blue-red is the best red deck. Blue-green, not so much, but I think all the green decks are pretty bad. So, yeah, and it's just, you know, and then this fits into every strategy.
Certainly. And, you know, a 2-power flyer is going to beat people down, and it's likely going to be a 2-for-1 because they're going to have to remove it because it's a flyer, and that has been stronger than we expected. And it's really easy to get a good trade when you flash this in. It by itself can trade and eat something, you know, eat one of their whatevers, because there is a lot of 2-power type creatures, 2/2s and things like that. So I'm getting a ton of value out of this card, and I love it, but I'm not going to give it any higher of a rating. It's just good to note that blue is just overperforming other colors by not even close.
Yeah, I mean, at absolute minimum, it just completely kills a decayed token that's attacking. Yeah. It turns it to 0 power, and then the thing dies. So you've turned off a 2-power. You've killed a 2-power attack.
Yeah, sometimes
without even having to block.
Sometimes you're just, even if it's like a larger creature too, you block with your other creature and then like lower its power, right?
Yep.
Or you can do this in response to a combat trick, +2/+2, just kidding. You do, you know, then you respond with this, and then on your turn, you get this big attacker. So, feels good.
Yeah. Yep.
Organ Hoarder, guys. This is an all-star for just a common. We are getting a 4-mana 3/4 that when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library and put one of them into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Whew, this card is good. I think this is probably on par, top 3 commons in the set.
Yeah, I think it's the best common in the set. I think it's close. I think there's a good argument for a couple black cards. But I think this is the best common in the set, and just seeing these like chain one into each other against blue decks is so
feels so bad. Yeah, no, that like if they go turn 3 Organ Hoarder, turn 4 Organ Hoarder, or turn 4, turn 5, you're just like, okay, well, this is infinitely harder to win like than I was expecting. Like seeing the 2 of these back to back is worse than most of the rares.
Yeah, and you see like they play Organ Hoarder, and then you see them put like a land and a medium spell in the yard, like, and in the graveyard, you're like, oh crap, what did they take?
Or they just take a medium creature and then put a disturbed creature in the yard, and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
that's
or a
so much
spell.
value.
Like, yeah, I mean this card is, we gave it a 3, and I think it's way better than that.
I think originally when I read it, I was thinking like, oh, get a creature slightly overcosted, 1 mana, but you like draw a card. But it's not just draw a card, it's draw the best of 3 in the top of your library, and that is so much better. Not close. It is absurd.
And sometimes effectively draw multiple cards.
Yeah, and then exactly. Yeah, it's like draw 1 plus like 2 half cards. And get rid of the blank land draws that you didn't want anyway. So you're just getting so much value.
Yeah, like the worst I've ever felt casting an Organ Hoarder is when I like flipped and they're like the 3 best cards in my deck. I'm like, oh, I have to put 2 of these in the graveyard. And if that's the worst you're ever feeling with this card, that's pretty damn good.
Certainly. So, I mean, it's probably a 3/5. I mean, again, it's not a bomb on its own, but it's just another one of these situations where blue is super powerful and all the cards chain together. You play a blue card on 3, you play a blue card on 4, you play another one on 5, and you win the game. Even if they're commons. I don't understand. It's so dumb.
Yeah, like I specifically want to hold up, if I'm playing blue, I want to hold up Counter Magic on their turn 4 just because of this card.
Revenge of the Drowned, 4 mana for a bounce. Put it on, target opponent can choose to put a creature on top of its owner's library, and then you create a 2/2 zombie token. Broken record, guys. It's probably rated just where we thought it would be, but it's blue, performing very well. Everything is built together for such good tempo magic.
Yeah, it's weird that this is probably the best of the 3 bounce spells, even though it's by far the most expensive.
Yes.
But the token is relevant, and it's a time walk effect. It's not just a bounce back to their hand. It stops their next draw or kills it for good if they don't want to redraw it.
Yeah, these zombies are adding up so fast. Even if you're not attacking with them, you're siege zombieing them down, you're larder zombieing, away all your bad cards and fixing your draws and just getting this really powerful board state very early, while also not giving up card advantage like you typically would for a bounce spell. So I'm guessing we rated it probably right, but it's still just outperforming anything else in its rating level.
Yeah, we gave it a 3.
Yeah, it still probably is, but again, your opponent plays this on 4, plays another on 5, you're just like, well, shit.
And the underrated thing with these zombie tokens is how much they prevent opponents from attacking. Even though they can't block, it's just you start building up a horde that they need to keep guys back to block.
Yeah, so like this is a 1-for-1, and then that zombie is just extra. So you play a few spells that do that, you have 4 zombies, that's a lot of damage. That's not something that your opponent can be like, well, I'll just swing into you because you can't block, and take 8 on the crackback. And with a siege zombie and things like that, blue-black or, blue in general just has so much incidental damage, so many cheap flyers. You get a little bit of that zombie attack, and then just a Falcon, Abomination Falcon just can go the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Surprise, another blue card. I think we have like 30 cards and like, 15 of them are blue or something?
Something like that.
We have the Scav Wrangler, guys. 2 mana for a 2/1. Tap 3 untapped creatures. Tap a creature.
Yeah, this is just like the Larder Zombie, and we'll see Siege Zombie as well. The tap 3 untapped creatures is just much easier than I was anticipating.
Yeah, I think this is one of the mechanics I was actually kind of on board for. I fought you on Siege Zombie, but I don't think I fought you on this, because I figured there would be other things I'd want to be doing. I don't think I thought that the zombies would add up quite as well, so I didn't like this one as much as the Siege Zombie, but this is still definitely outperforming my expectations.
Yeah, I mean, Siege Zombie also, right, you can use it, like you can block with the creatures and then use this to get the effect you want. You have to tap down an attacker before blocks. So up front that looked better, but this card has been a menace in some games I've played against.
Yeah, and with those tokens adding up, you tap down 2 blockers, and then you can just get in for a lot of damage, and then you're putting them on the back foot so they can't even on your turn contest you with a swing back, because you just, are winning the race at that point with your massive army of zombies.
Yeah.
This has turned into the werewolf set that is just blue black zombies is the best, which makes no sense. So I'm pretty sure next set for vampires we're going to see like humans be really good. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but...
I mean it's you expect red green to be the best in a werewolf set, and you get blue black. So zombies you think, or vampires you think red black. So what, blue white control?
Yeah, or white green humans or something. Yeah, for sure.
Humans. Yeah. We gave this a 2. I think it's at least a 2.5.
I'm on board for a 2.5.
Yeah. All
right, moving on to another color. Horde.
There are other colors?
Black. Black is the other color.
Oh, that's right, yes.
All right. We have the 5 mana Menace. It's a 3/4 that when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 cards from a graveyard, create 2 2/2 zombies. This is a lot of power for not that much mana, and I'm always eating these Damn Disturbed and Flashback cards. It feels amazing. This card, I've had 3 of them in a deck, and I've never, I would still play more.
Yeah. I mean, this card, it's not Grave Titan, but it feels like it to some degree, at least at a common level. The exiling thing can't be under or overstated. Like getting rid of Disturb cards, you're in a flashback, you're seeing the flashback Raise Dead card played a lot. Just getting stuff out of their yard. In the rare red decks, you see the Elementalist getting spells back. There's just always getting stuff out of their graveyard matters.
Certainly, and I mean, this is another one of those situations probably where like our ratings are probably not that far off because we think they're good, but like they are just so much better than the other colors with similar ratings. I think that's what this is, just showing how disproportionate like the power level of these cards are.
Yeah, we gave this a 3. I think it's probably a 3.5, and I think this is the probably primary contender with Organ Hoarder for the best common in the set.
I would agree with that. Originally, this shot up to number 1 card in the set for me very, very quickly, but I've developed more and more of a soft spot for Organ Hoarder for sure. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of black white, actually has been kind of my go-to now because blue is so heavily overdrafted and I'm getting a lot of wins that way. So I still like this card a lot more, but I also really like Siege Zombie. And this is just like, I'm playing a ton of like double, triple Siege Zombie, double Horde decks and just like pinging people to death. It's amazing. It's great.
Oh yeah, this card's great. And it is the perfect complement to Siege Zombie.
And honestly, the reason I like bumping this to a 3/5 is because it on its own is a solid body in the format. Like there's not too many things that can box with the 3/4 super efficiently. That's not like a rare or whatever. And spreading it out over all of the bodies, you're getting like those sack values. You're getting like a ton of extra incentives. This is winning games on its own. And at a common level, that is rare.
Well, and it's got that rare ability of a common creature that if it gets immediately removed, you've gotten a lot of value already between exiling things and getting 2 tokens.
Yeah, this is, often going to be like a 3-for-1.
Yeah, that's the sort of value you see on a rare creature, not a common.
Dreadhound, 6 mana, 6/6. Whenever when it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards, so you're going to get the trigger from that. And then whenever a creature dies, put that or is put into a graveyard from anywhere. Sorry, each opponent loses 1 life. So this is really, really nice with card like green-black where you're like self-milling, but also like just big, messy combat steps. You can even attack with this creature and everything that trades and blocks along the way is going to trigger. Even if they kill this like in the combat, it'll still see everything else and create this situation where your opponent takes 10 life just from like blocking situation. This card has won me a lot of games just because my opponent either takes the damage or dies by blocking.
Yeah, I think this card is very good. It is a threat that has to be answered. The only downside to it is that it can be answered cleanly without any real value unless you happen to hit Disturb or Flashback spell with Mill. That being said, it's still terrifying because you've probably gotten 1 or 2 triggers just from the Mill anyway.
I will say it dodges all the red removal, right? The 5 damage, the 4 damage, like it's dodging all of that. So really the thing that's getting this card is it has to be Night for Olivia's Midnight Ambush, which is an amazing card. And then there's the Eaten Alive. If it dies in combat or my opponent does something weird or does happen to ambush it, I've been playing a one of Brawl from the Cellar in every deck and getting this back every time, and it feels really good. And they're not usually likely to remove this the second time. I like that.
The spot where this suffers is against the blue deck with Bounce.
Certainly.
Because it's so expensive.
Yes. I like this as a top end, but again, yeah, you are right. Anything that is this much mana. But hopefully, if you're playing this card, your deck is going wide enough to where you're not going to just die to a bounce spell. You're like, they can't just like then crack you for a million because you have a solid, amount of creatures already in play.
Yeah, I think this. No, I mean, I'm always playing this card in any black deck. I'm never cutting it.
What was the rating?
We gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to go any higher than that, but it is winning me a lot of games. Yeah,
I would not go higher. I'd be more tempted to put it at a 3, only because I think it is worse than Diregraph Horde, for example. But not much. Like, I think we're talking kind of minutia there.
Yeah, it's just a situation where these cards, normally when we do these mid-set reviews, the numbers are actually drastically changing. These ones really aren't. It's just in blue and black specifically, they're just outperforming everything else that they feel stronger than they should, but they like still are kind of what we expect. So it's kind of weird. Moving on. Awakener, guys. This is something that has overperformed my personal thing. Like, I fought for Siege Zombie. I think Yanks really fought for this card, and I didn't really like it much. So this is the Awakener, 1 mana, 1/1, pay 3, sacrifice another creature, draw a card, then transform, and it transforms into a 4/4. You fought for this card pretty hard, right, Yanks?
I don't entirely remember, but I must have, because we gave it a 3. So if you didn't like it, I must have really liked it.
I'm not gonna lie. I think what maybe happened, because this happened when I played it like week 1 or the first week or so. I remember thinking to myself, oh, when I eat the creature, I draw a card?
Yeah.
So I thought this was just straight card disadvantage.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just like, that's weird. Like, this is way better than I thought it was. So I think that's why I didn't like it. But if you're eating like an occultist or something, holy smokes, you're just like making it rain value. So good.
Yeah, I got to do a really cute thing with this the other day playing black-white, where I attacked with that 1 mana 1/1 first striker. Mm-hmm. And they blocked this, and you got to deal the first strike damage, hit them for the 1, and then sacrifice it to this, because you can do it at instant speed.
Cute.
And so you get the effect and deal the damage.
That is very, very cute, for sure. And it's like instant speed, so you can do it in response to removal. Then they have to decide, well, do I kill the other thing that's slightly more annoying, or, and then they just sack it and make this other thing that I have to deal with. That has been really difficult for me on the opposite side of the field from this card.
Yeah, and even if they kill it in, like, you sack something and they kill it, they midnight ambush it in response, you still get the card draw.
Yes. So you're still getting, fine value.
Yeah, you're at 2 for 2 basically at that point.
I think some people are arguing that this is the best black common. I don't know that I agree, but this, it's definitely a contender.
Yeah, I don't think it's the best black common, but I think it's in that conversation, which is rare for a 1-drop.
Agreed. I actually typically hate 1-drops, which is another reason why I probably didn't want to run this. I like Horde and Ambush. I think this is probably in the wheelhouse of 3rd for me.
Agreed.
All right, Morbid Opportunist, guys. This is the Mythic Uncommon, which should just be a rare because it's insane. 3 mana for a 1/3. Bit of an expensive card, but whenever a creature dies, theirs or yours, draw a card only once per turn. So you attack with your zombie, you shock them in the face for 2, and then you kill their thing on their turn, do a thing. Like, oh my gosh, my opponents can't even attack me because if I make 1 reasonable trade and take 2, I draw a card, which is just a huge mountain that they cannot deal with. This card is nuts.
Yeah, this card is insane. I'm scrolling through black right now and looking at the rares and mythics. There's only a couple of them I'm taking over this card.
This card is first pickable. It's, oof. I will take this over 80% of the rares in the format.
Yeah, this is the first pick of uncommons and commons, and will be picked over most rares and probably half the mythics.
Yeah, if you can get reasonable trades, if your removal becomes a 1 for 0, holy smokes, everything is so good.
And the key of this card also is in black, especially, it doesn't say non-token. So
I know
they can't even dodge trades or not kill your things to stop them drawing cards. You just attack with the Decayed token, and even if they just eat it, you get a free card.
Or you sack a thing with your Flesh Taker. Holy smokes. I had one draft. I know this is going to be like very niche, but like I had the Angel that like brought stuff back. And I was sacking things with the Flesh Taker to then draw a card and then get the thing back. And then, oh my god, it was nuts, guys.
Oh, I did it with the same thing with Flesh Taker, not with the Angel, but with the 3-mana flip card that when it attacks, it brings something back tapped and attacking. A 2-drop. So I sacked like the 1-mana 1/2 or 2-mana 1/2 to that to Flesh Taker. Drew a card from the Opportunist dying.
Are you talking about the white card, the white uncommon?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's cute. So if it's 2 CMC stuff or lower you're sacking, it's fine.
Yeah, so I sacked the Occultist, drew 2 cards, one for Opportunist, one for the Occultist, scryed with the Flesh Taker, attacked with the 3/2, which brought the Occultist back, and even if they kill it, you draw another card.
And again, I would just like to say one more time how crazy it is that your removal becomes a 1/0. Because removal's not good enough as it is. You have to draw a card, add the word draw a card to the bottom of all your removal spells. Chef's kiss. What did we rate this card?
We gave it a 3/5, and that's it.
It is a 4/5. This is going to win you games on its own, even if the rest of your deck is shit. In fact, the shittier, wider zombies and like little puny stuff that you have, probably the better.
Yeah.
Add a Flesh Taker so you can sack stuff, in response to stuff. Oh, so good. All right. Lunar Frenzy, guys. This is the only red card we're going to talk about, and we didn't really know that we needed to talk about it, but it is overperformed. It's killing people. It's hard to play around, but it is definitely something that is being drafted pretty highly.
Yeah, it's a way to steal games out of nowhere, which red in particular needs in this format. I've definitely died and won games to this being cast for X = 6.
Yeah.
And just trampling over.
X = 6 is really, really hard to deal with for sure. I expected this to be good. I didn't expect it to be quite this good. But that said, it still doesn't feel amazing because red sucks. like let's just be honest here. Red as a whole is just underperforming. And this card can be great, but like the rest of your deck is just not going to gain enough value. This card doesn't say draw a card, make a zombie, and make your opponent cry themselves to sleep, which all of the red, black, and blue cards do actually say those words. So,
yeah, the nice thing with this card also that I have used a couple times is that you can cast it for X = 0 just to get the first strike, which will win a combat sometimes.
I have done that, and also it makes if you purposely play your creature pre-combat, knowing that that's what you want to do, it'll trick them into a block and make them play less cautiously, which is nice. Someone in the chat, real quick, I wanted to mention for the last card, someone saying if this isn't a 5 out of 5, what is? So our 5 out of 5 is basically a card that will win the game in 1 or 2 turns if left undealt with. Now this is a slower, snowballier effect. Also, if this comes into play, it does say other creature, and if it's answered right away, it leaves no lasting effect on the board. So usually a 5 does something when it ETBs and changes something drastically that can swing a board state. So it's like a big bomb that is going to be game winning if left undealt with. So we do have some of those qualifications for the 1 to 5s in the article form and also on our set review videos. So check those out if you're ever curious. There's usually 1 5 out of 5 in every color-ish, and it's whatever the biggest bombs are, usually mythics. I think we had maybe 5 5 out of 5s in this set, in the whole set.
Yeah, I think 3 of them were in black.
Yeah, definitely.
Mask of Crystal Brand, Meat Hook Massacre, and
Ooze was in green.
Yeah. Maybe it was just those 2, but I think particularly with regards to Opportunist, the fact that it can be answered easily by common removal spells.
Yeah, if it just gets moonfired, right? You didn't actually do much.
Yeah.
So that's what keeps it from being that 5 out of 5 bomb level stuff. It's going to win games, but it's going to do it very slowly, and that's that 4 to 4.5 range. All right, so we have Donhart Mentor, guys. This is really overperforming in the green decks. It is a 3-mana 04 that comes into play with a 1/1 white human. With Coven, 6 mana, you can give a creature +3/+3. It gains trample until end of turn, activate only if you control 3 different power creatures, which it comes into play with 2, and one of them is a 0 and one of them is a 1, which is 2 of the rarer powers to get. So it's super easy when you play this to trigger all of your Coven from here on out, right? Like having a 2/2 or a 3/3 is super easy.
Yeah, this card's been surprisingly good. I mean, green is still bad, but the fact that just that threat of activation, 6 mana is a lot, but the fact that you can do it at instant speed, put it on any creature, it makes combat so awkward.
It's also really good against the more aggressive, like vampire decks. It's going to block most things. And even if you aren't like putting all your eggs into this Coven basket, it is activating all of your other Covens, making your like Candle Witches attack and be very aggressive. And it's putting you in the driver's seat where they can't crack you back with their 3/3, and you're able to hit them in the air with your Candle Witch because you're activating Coven so quickly. And this feels really good. Yeah, you go Witch into this, you automatically have Coven, which is really nuts actually and difficult to deal with. And then they are not racing you back because 4 is a lot of butt. That is so much butt.
Yeah, the only real way I've seen like good decks lose to green-white decks in this format is when they curve out really well, and this just lets you do that and get that Coven early.
Yeah, certainly. And then it gives you a nice little mana dump at the end where you're just like, whatever you don't block, getcha, or like whatever you do block, I just get to pump, and then it's bad trades for you anyway.
Yeah, they usually go like Witch into this, into Sigarda, is it Sigarda? And then everything is sad.
And then, yeah, then you are sad. All right, so this is something that I think the overall consensus is that this card is overperforming. I personally don't like it. I've ran it a few times. I'm not super hype train about this card, but I know I've got a lot of comments on YouTube, and I think Yanks has had some better results with this as well, but it's not my type of deck. So like mine are just not coming together correctly, or I just naturally shy away from it. But that is the Death Bonnet Sprout. It is a 1/1 for 1 fungus, and at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. If there are 3 or more creatures, transform it into a 3/3 at the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile a card from a graveyard. If a creature was exiled this way, put a +1/+1 counter. So I do like the backside, right? It's going to be like removing a lot of stuff out of your opponent's graveyard, right?
Yeah.
Which is going to really mess up all of your like flashbacks and everything. And even the black decks that don't have disturb or flashback, you're still getting rid of like the grave crawler type effects, crawl from the cellar type things, making it so that they can't draw those cards because you've removed all the good stuff, or just getting rid of the flashback version of it. So it's definitely a good card, but I'm not finding that I like the archetype very much in general.
Yeah, I've had a little bit of success with this card. I've more had people have success with it against me. It's just it's an irritating card to play against because of all of what you're saying, but also because you see this 1 mana 1/1 and you don't want to spend a removal spell on it.
Yeah.
Especially a good one, and then all of a sudden it's a 3/3 and then a 4/4 and then a 5/5, and it's like, I should have killed this a while ago.
Yeah, I'm also I find that, I know this is the worst way to think about it, because you're more likely to draw into your bombs, like to get closer to them, right? But like, I play this and they're just like, oh, remove a removal spell. Oh, draw a land, remove a creature. I'm just like, God damn it. So I just played it a handful of times and just had very poor performances as a whole. So I think I just kind of wrote the card off, but it's got to be better than I think it is, because the backside is so strong, but I'm finding that I'm just not flipping it aggressively enough, which is probably because I'm not running enough of the next card, which is the farmer here. What was our Death Sprout rating?
2.
It's probably a 3, a full upgrade. I wouldn't give it a 3/5, but I mean,
no,
the Sprout is good. It's better than I want it to be. It's better than I want to admit that it is.
I think it's held back a bit by the fact that black-green just isn't as good as it could have been. But mostly because green just isn't very good.
Agreed.
Because that's the deck it wants to be in.
And also, if you have like a lot of other graveyard synergies, then you're happier to get your stuff into the yard accidentally. Whereas like I'm just not typically drafting those kinds of decks. So we'll bump this from a 2 to a 3 and move on to the farmer. A 3 mana 2/3 that when it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards, and you may return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. This is overperforming by a lot. I always like 2/3s for 3 for filler as is, and I was like, oh, cool, a little land, no problem. But you're triggering your Death Sprout sooner, you're getting things in your yard that you can use. Even if you put like a crawl from the cellar into the yard, great, you can still use it. So you're not actually just milling a card, you're actually drawing a half a card, right? Because you get the flashback side of the card. So it's got some really nice value, and ensuring that you're hitting that 4 and 5 drop land is really important.
Yeah, it's really nice too that this doesn't say you have to return one of those 3 cards if there's a land already in your graveyard, like you cracked an Evolving Wilds or you got milled or self-milled some other way. And there's a land in there, you can get that. But I think it's really just the 3 toughness is what has overperformed a lot in this format as well, just because of all those 2/2 zombies.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, this card, again, I'm not drafting a lot of green typically, but it's overperforming, and I'm seeing it do well in other decks that I'm playing against. So yeah, I'm happy with this card. What did we rate it before?
Yeah, we only gave it a 2.
It's definitely it's a 2/5 with some upside if you've got the synergy for it.
I think that's right.
Yeah, 2/5 is like the floor for like if it had no text box, which it clearly is way better than I even thought that the text box would be. Yep. So Hound Tamer. This is the opposite of what we've been talking about in the last couple of colors. This is an underperformer massively. It is a 3/3 for 3, which I'm already like, yay! Let's play. It's got trample. Yay! Streamers. 4 mana, nice little mana sink here. Put a +1/+1 counter on any creature with Daybound, Nightbound. I don't have the other side.
Nightbound, it's a Untamed Pup, a 4/4 trample, and all your other wolves and werewolves have trample. And it has the same mana sink.
So, this card is weird. I look at this card, I read it again, I still think that this card is scary. However, I think this is another situation that we saw similar to the Sage in blue, where it's a big threat, it does a good thing, it's solid mana cost and body and powerful, it's a 3/3 for 3 with a keyword that then gives you late game mana sink that transforms into something bigger. There's no way this isn't great. But it's not winning me games. Why is this not winning me games?
Yeah, there's nothing actually wrong with this card. And just like you're saying, every time I see an opponent play this card, it's kind of scary.
It is.
But it doesn't end up doing anything.
No, it just eats my Moonbolt and then fucks off. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
There's just so I think the ability just suffers because there's so much instant speed interaction. You can spend all this mana to put counters on creatures, then it gets bounced for 1 mana. Or 2 or 4, like any of them. There's so much bounce in format because you're playing against so many blue decks.
I think this is bad for 2 reasons. 1, the format's too fast. 2, green sucks.
Yes. Yep. That is why. There's nothing wrong with the card itself. Its surroundings is what is making it bad.
It's also a tall creature. I don't mean like it's not like a 6/6, but I'm saying it is a really jam-packed value on 1 card, which is really bad when the format has so much removal and rewards going wide. This is not a card I'm as excited about. Like, I think I was just like, woo, bomb. I thought this was going to be like the opportunist like level of quality, but it's just not.
Yeah, I mean, just look at those 2 cards in comparison. They're both 3 mana. So this one looks so scary compared to that on its face, but that one you're just drawing free cards all the time, and here you're doing some damage and slowly putting counters if you don't do anything else with your mana.
It doesn't even do that. It just gets lightning bolted, and then you just die. And you just are sad that you played green.
Yeah.
What did we give this before?
We gave this a 4.
Boo! Give it a 3.
Yeah.
Rise of the Ants. 6 mana. Create 2 3/3s. Gain 2 life with flashback. This has killed me more times than I care to admit.
Yeah, this is the bane of, to some degree, the bane of some of the aggressive decks in the format, because they run out of gas. The rare times you do run into like the red-black vampires or a Boros deck or even a green-white deck, because the quality of cards in other decks are going to eventually, sheer power, overwhelm them. And this just, if you get to 6 mana and play this, it's hard for them to win.
It really is. And it's so wide. And 3/3s are actually scarier bodies than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Because, like, normally the formats are full of 3/4s, right? Like, every every color has a 3/4 for something, right? That does something kind of whatever, which should just stonewall these, but it doesn't. Most of my stuff is just too small. And an army of 3/3s coming at my face is, whew, it closes out games so fast.
Yeah, I thought this card would be fine, but too slow. And while the format is quick, this still hasn't been that bad. It's kind of weird.
So the first time I died to this, I got paired against Marshall Sutcliffe randomly on the ladder, and he just like whomped me with it. And I was like, huh, I think this card's a little bit better than I expected.
Yeah.
What did we give it before?
2/5.
Yeah, this is probably a 3.
A 3.
Yeah. Again, green is still bad. Don't get excited. But if you're going to win, I'm happy to have this on my top end.
Yep.
I believe this is the last card, guys, and we're going to do a quick overall wrap-up, which should actually be shorter than I expected because we've kind of talked about it along the way. This is something like I wanted to talk a little bit about just because I think that there was some, like, you know, argument as to whether this was actually any good, because draw 2 for 5 mana is kind of expensive. But this card has really performed very well for me, and when I have this card in my deck, I feel like the deck just does very well, because I think that the distinction of drawing 2 cards versus drawing the best of 4 cards is a huge difference. And also it's just in the best color archetype, so your deck is already really strong, and you're just getting such good value. I really like this. And it's instant speed, so you can hold open your counter magic, you can hold open your removal spells, and still do this. The best of 4 cards is really good.
Yeah, this is benefiting from a lot of the things you said. Best color pair already, and a color pair that wants to sit there with mana open, whether it be for removal or counter spells or flash creatures. You can play cards so it doesn't completely brick if you hit 2 lands. You at least get to steal a land.
Yeah.
You know, it can be milled. Flashback, we talked about with Orchid Hoarder how that filtering selection process matters. Now, in this case, you're not putting things in your graveyard, but you're getting to pick, which is actually good because you don't want to put stuff in their graveyard.
Sorry, guys. Loud, barking dog. I'll try to edit that out later. Yeah, like, I don't know. What did we rate this card?
A 3/5.
I mean, I would like to bump it to a 4, just because every time I play it, it gives me such good value. I don't know that I've, like, lost a game I've played this card.
I actually played with this card earlier today, and when I played it, I got 3 lands and a pump spell as my 4 cards.
I mean, I've even kept this in like a 2-lander and like got lands off my opponent's deck that I needed. Yeah. Like it's pretty flexible. If I'm like, you know, hitting my 4th land because of it and then getting a removal spell, like that's really good value.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing that up as a point that I still think this should go up to 4. Yes, it can fail, but a lot of cards can have fail cases.
And the fail case is so small.
Yeah, just because it fails once or twice doesn't make it a bad card. In fact, it's still a very good card.
And the opposite side of that is you're removing like the best 2 removal spells of your opponent's deck and then casting it on them. Good. Exactly. So good. All right. So that is the end of our like over/underperforming like review, guys. This is minor changes compared to some of our other things that we were vastly wrong on. Yanks and I, we've done things like underestimated cycling and some bigger archetype theme stuff, but that I don't think that we really missed the bullseye by that much in this set. We only missed on like how good one color pair was, I think, that blue-black. But that said, I do know that we rated black above and beyond any other color, followed closely by red and blue, we thought. Red was worse, obviously. Blue being very good. Probably a contention for black. But, I mean, I don't think we were far off the mark. What do you think, Yanks?
No, I think we were definitely right on black. We missed a little bit on just how impactful, at least I certainly did, how impactful the zombie tokens were going to be.
Yeah, I didn't.
But we were right on black. Blue, I think we thought was kind of mediocre at first. And I think we overrated red a bit. But I think we were probably right on green being pretty mediocre, and same with white.
Yes. I think that's right. I think like my color pairing might have been like black, red, blue, trash. And it's probably just flipping those 2 black and red and blue. Maybe it's even black, blue tied, then red, even though red still feels pretty bad. Like I'm still drafting it a lot.
Yeah, I think I probably have black and blue close at the top, and then I think I'd probably have white third, just because blue white and black white I think are better than any of the red and green decks.
So my white, with anything else, has done kind of poorly. I've seen a lot of people have really good results with white blue, but I'm not getting those. But my black whites have been awesome.
Yeah, I think my black white decks have been pretty decent. I think every 7-win deck I've had in this format has blue in it, whether and they're all blue black or blue white.
Okay, mine have all had black. They've either been black blue or black white.
Yeah, I've had a number of 6-win black decks, but black white decks, and I think like one 6-win black red deck, but everything with green has been terrible.
Yeah, I've had a couple of like pretty close green red like werewolf decks, which now I know is not a good archetype. The reason that those did well is because I had all of the bombs to go with it. Like I had the Tolvard, I had the uncommon that like makes a bunch of ramp mana, and like if you get the pieces, it can be good. But it, the common and uncommons, the dough is not quite good enough. You have to have all the stuff inside to make it actually, carry its own weight, which is kind of sad in a werewolf set. Boo.
Yeah. Agreed. Even the decks I've had that have had Tovar have not done great.
I played a little Boros with like the uncommon pump spell, and I got like some good stuff from that. I did like a bunch of like 2-1 best of 3 Boros drafts, which was nice. But again, that's still a loss. Nothing to write home about. So be in black, be in blue.
Yeah, Boros has felt like the complete non-existent archetype in this format. Like, I almost never play against it. I think I've drafted it once, and part of that's just I looked through it. There's no reason to get into Boros.
Yeah, the Boros.
Than, there's a couple rares. Yeah, the
rare,
Angel Fire Ignition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like there's a couple rares. And that's about it. Like, even Ren Carolus is good, but not amazing. The red white uncommon is good. Sacred Fire's fine, but there's just no reason to get into Boros.
I think the reason is that like the set as a whole, all of the other archetypes, blue, black, and other things where you would think they would be more controlling, are still really freaking fast, which just kind of takes, the card out of Boros's back pocket that they usually can. Boros's claim to fame is quick, cheap removal. That's good. Premium, quick removal. But all of the other color archetypes or pairings are just as fast. And they go super wide, making your, Lightning Bolt bad.
Yep.
So, like, it just doesn't do anything. That said, guys, you can still get a good deck for anything that we're saying. So I know we're going to get a ton of comments going like, I went 7 wins with Boros. You're wrong. So, every deck, if you have the right things, can do well. If you get good matchups, whatever. But yeah, I think it's just hands down. We were pretty spot on-ish, as close as we can be, I think, for like an introduction set review.
Yeah, I think it went pretty well.
All right, awesome. Well, anything you'd like to add, Yanks?
No, I mean, I guess I'd like them to stop making formats where one deck is so dominant.
Yeah, blue-black, it definitely felt more oppressive than the the sack deck in the last set.
And even that got old pretty quick.
Yeah. I actually switched, like I said, my YouTube views are so down because I switched to best of 3 because I was so sick of playing blue-black. Excuse me. Dry spot. Dying. I got so sick of playing blue-black in best of 1 that, I just switched to best of 3, and I'm having way more fun, but it's less exciting because it's not ranked.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, it looks like that wraps up our mid-set set review. Yanks will be back for us to do Crimson Vow, which we start to get spoilers on the 28th. So, that is a couple of days away, like less than 2 weeks. And I have a spoiler on the 30th, which is the same day as our Degenerate Creator Open. So I will be spoiling it on that date. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, make sure you guys leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think and how you're enjoying the format. And just give us your opinion. I love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye. I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.